And now, the Sleephawk Worldwide Podcast. Here are your hosts, Brandon Staten and Tyler Hansbrough.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sleephawk Worldwide Podcast. This is Sleep Dog with the Big Hawk.
What's up, everybody? It's a Big Hawk. It is hot as hell out. It's not going to get any colder, so buckle up. We've got a great pod coming for you. I'm super excited to be with my guy, Sleep Dog, before he heads off out of the country to Italy. So he's going to be taking a break. But, hey, man, I'm happy to be here with you. Just ecstatic.
Oh, dude, couldn't be more ecstatic. And, guys, stay tuned because if you ain't following us on Instagram, you really missed out on my Alaska trip. Well, guess what? Now I'm going to a foreign country with my in-laws. So stay tuned. It's going to be even better. Might have to block my mother-in-law. We've had a little, we've had to set the stage a little bit and help understand where these messages are truly coming from, which isn't from the heart, it's from the mind. We got a lot of stuff to talk about here today, just besides the fact that there's not a lot of stuff to talk about. Got Game 5, be tonight as you're listening to it. That's going to really seems like a foregone conclusion at this point. You're going to put the nail in a coffin. Old Big Hawk going to have pegged it seems. We'll get into that in a little bit. Lionel Messi comes to the MLS, dude, of all places, to continue his, I don't know, man. I don't know a lot about soccer, but I think he's probably the best player in the history of soccer. And now he's going to play in the MLS, which is probably the worst league in the history of soccer. No shots fired there, just calling it is for what it is. We'll dive into that a little bit and probably segue into the Saudi connection about this whole Live PGA thing. Some more details have come to light as to why that took place. And it's posed some interesting questions for old Sleep Dog, man. There's some fascinating angles that you can look into that announcement as to why it happened. We might get into some hard knocks because there's a few interesting teams that are jockeying to potential. Well, they're probably jockeying to stay out of it, but I think there's 4 or so teams that could potentially be a part of Hard Knocks, and a couple of them. Hard Knocks is one of those things. I used to live for it. When you're in college, dude, Hard Knocks is the best thing on TV. And you get a little older, and it's just all right, dude, I've seen this story before. Shitty team, doesn't make playoffs, rinse, repeat. But this year, there's a couple storylines that could get really, really interesting. But we'll dive into that, cookie review a lot more. But let's start with Game 5. Denver, the Heat won Game 2 in Denver and just got smoked, it seemed, both of the games in Miami. I don't know, man. Jokic is – everybody knew he was good. I just don't ever think anybody appreciated how good he is. Jamal Murray's a great player. We talked a lot about it. But they seem to have they were playing so well, and then there were 2 games where all their supporting cast was a little iffy or whatever, and I blame that layoff. I think that they had a long time to wait and rest, and it didn't take them long, it seems, to kind of get back on track. They are just kicking Miami's ass, and I just don't see any way that this series goes longer than tonight as you're listening. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Big Hawk?
The series is over, period. 5 games, they got lucky. They won 1. Listen, Miami is an 8 seed for a reason. And Jimmy, you don't forget, Jimmy's unbelievable. But Denver as a whole team, they have really good pieces. Jamal Murray's unbelievable. Aaron Gordon's been playing really well. They have veterans, good team all around. Even Christian Braun, their rookie, came in, did a lot of great things for him. It's just they have too much power. Like I said, there's really not a lot of listen, you can talk X's and O's and you can digest this whole game, but when it comes down to it, Denver's a better team all around. And also they have Jokic. And I'm with you. To me, it's like Jokic is the best player in the world. The 1 year that you think he's the most deserving of the MVP, he doesn't get it. It's just I don't understand this whole MVP voting. And it's kind of crazy because some of the great players have kind of gotten snubbed of some MVPs because, hey, this guy had a really good season and there's a lot of media pressure to give it to or vote for this guy. But in reality, Jokic has been unbelievable. People just got, just got used to watching greatness, and they want to vote a different way, in my opinion. And the one knock has been Jokic really hasn't won in the playoffs. Now that he's winning, he doesn't have the MVP. It's kind of funny how it works, but no, this game is over. Denver's going to win their first title. It's great for the city, and also for me, I think it's great for the NBA because you have a team that isn't a major market winning. It's not the Lakers. It's not the Knicks. This is a small market team, a team that's never been to the finals. And, it's not like a free agent destination. So this is great.
Dude, Jokic in 19 games in the playoffs is averaging 30, 13, and 10. He's averaging a triple-double in the entire playoffs. 30.1 points, 13.3 rebounds, 9.8 assists. I mean, dude, this guy is unstoppable. And, of course, he's shooting 54% from the field, 46% from three. And he's taking 4 threes a game. So he's hitting 2 a game, 80% from the line. I mean, this dude he scored 572 points in the playoffs. Doesn't turn the ball over much, I mean, this dude is a stud. Like, I don't understand how. I mean, and he's a great player, and he's got good players around him. I would say that, like, if you picked an All NBA team based on the playoffs, like, I don't think Jamal Murray. I can't remember if he finished on any of the All NBA teams, but you could argue him like a third team All NBA, something like that. And again, another guy that's kind of underrated. So it'll be interesting. And I think also, like, their roster is constructed in a way that they're not like, I don't think they're at risk of losing a lot of these guys. I mean, they might lose a couple of these pieces. You mentioned Braun. You got that guy on a rookie contract. There's been a lot of chatter from the Warriors fans about, well, damn, this guy looks a lot like what Jonathan Kuminga could have looked like if you gave him some damn playing time. And I don't think that's necessarily a same comparison given the way the roster is structured. But yeah, he's contributing, man.
Yeah, and Kuminga's his upside's much greater than Braun. I'll just put it out there. But Braun, and listen, Braun's he's a good player, but Kuminga, his ceiling is much higher. His potential is higher. Braun, what you got to think about is he was under a great college coach, Bill Self, for a long time. Yeah. And much more mature player. Probably, it's probably a little bit older than Kuminga too, which people don't really put together.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too about these college guys and getting into a play. A late first round picks, man, can be super valuable. I think Denver's got a roster of guys that seem like they'll be in the NBA for a really long time. Most of them already have been, right? Yeah. And that's the thing that I think a casual fan doesn't appreciate, right? Some dude that's been in the league 8, 9, 10. Dude, Harrison Barnes, I think, has only been in the league like 10 years. He's only 30 or 31, right? Like, and dude, I don't think, even a Carolina, like, Harrison Barnes doesn't like jump off the page at you as like, I don't think he's ever been an all-star. He's won a championship, but that dude is he's a starter, right? On very important rosters, and guys like that make a huge difference. And I think Denver, Aaron Gordon, Porter Jr., a lot of Caldwell Pope, like, some of these guys aren't like, you're not collecting their freaking rookie cards or anything. But, they're a big deal when it comes to going deep in the playoffs. So here's what I did, actually, a little research, which is very, very unique for me before the show. 35 teams have trailed 3-1 in the NBA Finals. 11 of them have actually come back to win the title. 5 of those 11 didn't have home court advantage. The last team to do it was 2006 NBA Miami Heat. But they had Shaquille O'Neal and Dwayne Wade, and no shots fired at Jimmy Butler, because I think the dude's awesome, but he seems like he's pretty much alone in this. Adebayo's having a good series, but like, Adebayo's just going to get outmatched down low. They got too much size, and it's not Adebayo's fault, I don't think, but he's not enough.
Yeah, well, I also think that there's a reason Adebayo is scoring, because they're allowing him, they're daring him to shoot at times. And it looks like Denver is very focused on guarding the three and kind of, letting Jokic sag off of Adebayo, which Adebayo is a very good player, but he's not a 3-point shooter.
Right.
He does have the skill to bring the ball up and run the break, but he's not a shooter. He's far from it. But when you say a team has been down 1-3, in recent memory. And 5 of those teams have come back and haven't had home court advantage.
That have not, right? 11 teams have won the title, down 3-1.
Really?
Now, yeah, I was really surprised by that.
I would say the most recent would be, is it when LeBron came back on Golden State?
2016 Cavs, yep. And that was that was just an epic series, man.
That was a great series.
That was so weird because I don't think that ever. This is the thing about LeBron. And again, I mean, those of you that don't know this already, like I love LeBron. That's the thing I think gets lost. He's been in the league so long now, speaking of longevity, that people forget just how good he was in those. I mean, dude, he went to the finals 9 fucking years in a row. Okay, I get it. You want to argue Jordan's the best player of all time? Fine. You're not going to get an argument back from me. My theory is that LeBron is the best player of all time and Jordan is the greatest player of all time. And I'll let you decide what means what to you. It's just that was that was like my peak LeBron fandom too. I mean, I've come to like enjoy other storylines now that I've gotten a little older, and I just really just enjoy the sport more and watching the NBA and not really. I've always in the NBA since Jordan, I've always been a players guy. Like I've never had a team. I mean, I guess if you wanted me to pull for the Hornets, hell yeah. I mean, I hope the Hornets do good, but mainly because Jordan's there. But I've never had a team. It was Jordan, and then when Jordan was gone, LeBron came along. Those are the guys I follow. Now Kuminga carries the torch. Hopefully he'll last more than 2 years in the league. But it does, man. It's hard for I think people to realize because there's like the Warriors have been great. I mean, Steph Curry's been great. They have a dynasty, right? And 2 years ago they weren't in the playoffs. I mean, to go to the finals 9 straight times. And you go look. I mean, they've had some good teams. They had good teams with LeBron, but you go look at some of those rosters that went to the NBA Finals. You go back and look at them now, and you're like, how in the hell did they do it? So anyway, I just sidebar there. It just goes to show just how good they were for a long time. But I was surprised that 11 teams had come back from down 3-1. I bet my freaking parents' house and mine that shit ain't happening this time. I'd come close to betting that this series doesn't go to Game 6.
Yeah, I don't see it going to Game 6. I think it's a wrap in Denver. If it does go to Miami in Game 6, I think this is going to get interesting in particular because it seems like when everybody writes Miami off, that's when they kind of come through. So it could be added drama if it comes through, but I expect fully for the Nuggets to close this out in Denver tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's super interesting because the way that the series is structured, like realistically, if you're Miami, if you can just win this one, then you got home court and then anything can happen in Game 7. And I think it's a lot. I'm sure these numbers are much more, 30% or so of teams have won. I'm sure that percentage is much higher than baseball, for example. Maybe hockey's different. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. And by the time you hear from me again, we'll have all forgotten who the hell won it anyway because it'll be weeks from now. But Lionel Messi going to the MLS is a really interesting story. Now, of all of the soccer fans in the world, my guess is you could put me and Big Hawk together and not get a lot of soccer knowledge, dude. I couldn't tell you. Ted Lasso makes me feel like I've learned more about soccer. I've learned more about soccer from Ted Lasso than I've learned since I was like 5 years old, picking buttercups in the field while, they run around the ball. I don't know shit about soccer. I know this is a big deal, though.
Well, Sleep, I don't know a damn thing about soccer. I mean...
So here's the deal.
If I was going to play soccer, I'd want to play soccer in Miami.
Yeah,
the weather's good year round. It's a great, there's a nightlife. It's one of the more popular cities in the U.S. So why not? But I don't know. You're not going to see me at any games.
If you, dude, I'm gonna challenge you on that because here's where I'm going with this here in a second. So I think if you were to play soccer in America, maybe you'd play in Miami, but you'd probably play anywhere else in the world if you were like a legit soccer player. So it's really, really interesting that Messi comes to the MLS. He joins Miami, okay? As soon as he leaves the club he's on, they lose like millions of followers on social media. As soon as he joins Miami, they gain millions of followers, okay? All the tickets reportedly sold out. They play in Charlotte. So Charlotte has a pro team. And my buddy, I got a buddy that called me up, was like, hey, man, you guys need to come up here for this game October 21st. I was just like, damn, I didn't even think of that. But he's like, I mean, that's Bank of America Stadium. They sold this shit out, right? And then, so the crazy part to me is, obviously, the interesting part of this and why we're even talking about it. It has nothing to do with Messi, has nothing to do with soccer, has nothing to do with, the MLS, is the money, right? I mean, holy shit. So reportedly, the Saudis offered him between $400 and $600 million per year, okay? And he turned it down. He just won the World Cup, all right? They won the World Cup with Argentina, and it was like all this buildup because I guess he had never won. I think he had lost in a final. Again, not a soccer guy. He's playing for Paris. Dude, this guy's living it up. Saudi's offering $400 to $600 million a year. Miami's revenue, their club's revenue in 2022 was $56 million. This dude just turned down 10 times what this club is even, the money it even generates, not what it nets, what it grosses to come here. And so the rumor is that the deal structure includes equity in the club, which they rumor to be worth $600 million. So picture this. I'm Lionel Messi. The whole thing, you can't like dream of enough money to afford me somehow, right? Not only that, you got this competitive offer that makes me, even for rich people, that's rich, right? And so they're going to give him, I think, the rights to purchase part of the club. And here's the kicker on that, what makes it so interesting. So the club's worth $600 million. Well, they say when he comes, it should double. So my presence, so it's like, it's this weird thing here. And so I'm sure he'll have the ability, and they're basically saying that stake would take the deal to probably like $120 million a year. So you're like duct taping shit together to get this guy $120 million, which is still less than half of what's reportedly offered to him. Then Apple and Adidas basically are cutting him in on their deals, or he's cutting on deals like with Adidas. He's getting like a revenue share of apparel deal that deals with his coming to the MLS, and there's something going on with Apple. They brought them in as a sponsor. It's a sports model. They'll teach this shit in college for a long time about sports marketing and how to land this, and it's just amazing because and this is the last thing I'll kind of say, and I'll turn it over to you and get your thoughts. But basically, I remember, I don't know how long ago this was now, when David Beckham came to the MLS, and everybody thought that was, and there was like Ibrahimovic or whatever that guy's name is, who's like, all right, these are people I've heard of, but like Beckham was a star, but he was done, right? His career this was like a farewell thing. Messi's still very relevant. He's only like 35 years old. So, he's still a good player, like a sought after. Like he's still worth $500 million a year. So it's interesting because, could this change the course of history for the MLS? I'm going to have to see some results from it first. Like you said, I'm not going to start watching it on TV, but he shows up to Charlotte, and you're damn right I'm going to go. Why not? Just because it's kind of like, seeing fucking Adele or something, right? Like, all right, I'm a big Adele fan, but I ain't like got her on my playlist.
Adele's different.
Yeah. Going to Taylor Swift? I'll go to see T Swift. He's T Swift.
She's probably a better performer. Probably doesn't have the voice of Adele though.
Dude, I'm telling you, I don't know why Adele popped in, because Adele, yeah,
she's got an unbelievable voice, Adele very fan. Elegant, classy, love it.
Yeah.
And hopefully one day in my life I can go see Adele, because I would really like to see her in person. Yeah. I think that'd be a great concert.
My point there is, he's one of those people where I might not like soccer. Like, no, but I'd go see it because it's like, hey, I realize that this is greatness, and it's an opportunity to see it in person.
So what you're saying here is basically Adele for singing.
Yeah.
and Messi for soccer. Two great all-time performers. Well, singers, not performers. She's a singer. She does a good performance. I would put Celine Dion in there as well. She's got an unbelievable voice. Just to throw it out there.
Can't
I love
sing
her
anymore. Did you hear that?
What?
She's had I think she has some sort of very rare disease or disorder where she had to cancel her tour and can no longer go on tour anymore.
Man,
I'm at that age,
awful.
man. Like I think younger everybody, most of the people that listen to our pod are in our age range.
Yeah.
But yeah, Celine Dion, man. And we were talking about this over the weekend. You know who's underrated? Little Gloria Stefan.
Yeah, she got a great voice. Amazing.
Yeah. It'll be the rhythm of the night. You can't really pronounce much of it, but you don't need to.
Yeah, you know it.
Yeah, you just mumble it.
Here's what I think about Messi coming to Miami. It would be kind of sort of like if Jordan said, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to go play in Europe," and you're like, "What?" And to me, on the surface, it doesn't really make sense. But once you do the investigation and you dissect the details, and you sort the data, kind of like Sleep Dog has, you understand. This is a business decision. He has a chance to make millions and millions and millions of dollars. He's already made millions and millions of dollars. But listen, Messi is about the money at this point in his life. I mean, he is. Does it change the course of the Hell yes, it does, because you could see more deals like this done in other cities, and it presents an opportunity for them as the MLS to really get on the big stage. Because let's just be honest, American soccer really hasn't been taken serious. And so now it kind of gives us some relevancy. So I am interested to see how this works. And I don't know, Sleep Dog. Maybe we have to watch some soccer and cover some soccer on
and
here.
Wear the scarves and just stretch them out, and the Diamond Dogs meet with the Diamond Dogs once a quarter, something like that. Man, I don't know. Ted Lasso, dude, really did it for me. Now that's how I envision soccer is Ted Lasso. And who knows, man? Maybe it's a Ted Lasso thing. Maybe Messi was watching and was like, there's a future for this sport in America. I'd be really interested to see what the numbers of the MLS have been, because it does feel like the sport's getting more popular, but I just don't know that it has legitimate staying power. But I have no idea. But yeah, there's one way to find out. You just drop the best player of the world in the league while he's still good and find out. And that's, I guess if I'm him, you're right. It's like, hey man, if I got a piece of this club and the league grows, then who knows, man? Someday this club might be worth, $6-8 billion. And bam, I mean, I'm sure whatever he's getting out of it ain't a small part of it.
Yeah.
So, he could it's pretty nice gig to be in a situation where you're like, yeah, I'll just name my price and either you guys pay it or you don't.
And also Pablo, the producer, just said that Apple is doing a docuseries on Messi, and Messi is going to get a cut of Apple and MLS partnership on that. So
that's huge.
It looks like he's just doing business deals all around. I don't know if he's doing them himself, but very smart guy apparently.
Dude, bet he gets a free pair of those Vision goggles too. Those bad boys are coming in at $3 I think that's actually $3. What does she call it? Racks. So $3,000 for us lay people. So have you seen those things?
No.
That was their big announcement. That's their new big product, is they've got the virtual reality headset. I can't wait, dude. They're supposed to revolutionize how you do a lot of things. Now imagine I'm kicking the pitch with Lionel Messi with my goggles on, dude. I could see it. I mean, I bet they've got a big thing going on around it.
So can you watch sports in those goggles?
Apparently you can do all kinds of cool shit. Like play golf, there's a virtual golf league now. First team in LA.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I think you call it virtual golf. I guess it's just like a drive shack kind of thing or whatever the track man. Anyway, the interesting part to me, a good segue into, foreign diplomacy here, has been a topic of conversation, is all right, so you got all this Saudi money with Messi, and Pablo also brought up a good point about how Ronaldo was in the same spot. He just took the money. Ronaldo loves money. I don't know much about soccer. I don't know much about Ronaldo, but it seems like a guy that really likes money, and who could blame him? Driving around like $10 million car. The details that came out about Liv and why this bombshell of an alliance was forged after they just took such this hardline stance about why they hated each other, right? Was essentially because Liv was just bleeding them dry and they couldn't afford to fight him. And if they didn't join him, they were going to get buried. And That's a oversimplification, huge paraphrase, but it's fascinating to me because it's like a blueprint. And I mentioned this in our group chat. I was like, well, what happens if they start a football league? And what happens if like all these other players in the NFL that feel like they're underserved, underpaid, running backs are you're always want long-term deals and want money, and the biggest running backs get like $40 million. Quarterbacks get $40 million a year. What happens if Liv in Saudi Arabia, some other foreign power, creates a football league and starts bringing all the best 9 quarterbacks over to the league? Now, again, I get it. It's just it's highly unlikely. It's just interesting to think about. If a foreign country can basically come in and buy out the PGA in less than a year. I mean, that's what happened. They showed up. They started their league. Everybody got pissed about it. They said, we don't give a shit what you think. We're going to take half of your best players. And then before you know it, we're going to own your ass. Or you're going to be in bed with us. The underpinnings here of like what the justification was for the rift to begin with versus like, and it makes total sense to be perfectly fair and clear. Like I buy 100% what the PGA is saying, which is like, dude, we didn't want to do this. We had to. It's kind of fascinating to think about. Like there's a lot of other things that could be taken over in a similar fashion.
Yeah, so Sleep, I don't know if you remember, but when this Live Tour started happening, we actually dissected and we looked into how much the Saudi Public Trust Fund was worth. Mm-hmm. And I think in 2025, it was going to be in the trillions.
Yeah.
And then we looked and we dissected how much is the PGA Tour worth. I think it was even close to $2 billion.
Yeah.
And so the difference in that, they just don't have financially, they can't compete with the Saudis financially. And I was blown away, just like everybody else. And we talked about this as to, I was a little blown away by a lot of the players' reaction, because to me, it seemed like what Liv was doing was giving a lot of guys an opportunity to make a lot more money than they ever would in the PGA Tour. And we're also talking about guys who have been grinding it out and, who have families as well. Like the Perez guy, I forget his first name, but Perez.
Pat.
Yeah, Pat Perez. And so he came out and he was like, listen, this is a financial move for me. He's like, I've been out here on the PGA Tour grinding for a decade, and somebody offers me more money than I could ever dream of making, and I have a family and it's going to set them up for life. Absolutely. So that's what initially started happening. And then you started seeing guys like, I think Phil was all in from the get. And I think what happened was the PGA was caught off guard because they thought their players would be more loyal. And I thought that the kind of the rift was driven from the higher ups in the PGA to give that kind of vibe out to the PGA players to kind of shame the Live players for leaving. But when you look at it, there was absolutely no way that the PGA Tour could keep up with the Saudis. And like we said, when you looked at the details and what actually happened, it sounded like the Live Tour didn't even really want to be that much different from the PGA, although it kind of seemed like it was more of a party scene and loud music and all that stuff. But it looked like all the Saudis really wanted was to be part of the PGA Tour. And, like we talked about in our group text, I'm not really sure what the first right of refusal. Yeah. Right to first refusal on any opportunity from the PGA Tour the Saudis have, which is a huge deal. And I'm not really sure what all that entails, but I'm not stunned by this, Sleep. I will say that.
The legality of it, and to put it in even more perspective, is we have a buddy-ish, like my wife's friend is I can't remember if he's dating or engaged a guy who just made the tour this year. He's been on Korn Ferry Tour. In 2023, this dude's played 17 events. He made 7 cuts. You got to make the cut to make money in the PGA. He's made $178,000. Okay, and golf ain't cheap. So golf ain't one of those businesses where, yeah, sure he's got sponsors, and I'm sure maybe he makes more than that, but 178 grand. This dude is the best golfer that 99% of us would ever be in the same room with. Okay, like I mean, he's incredible, and it's 178 grand. Like if you win a tournament that ain't a major, like okay, cool, man. Maybe you win a few $100,000, several $100,000, $700-800 grand. All right, that's a lot of money. But $700-800 grand, we got dudes making $600 million. Like it's different, right? So and I get all the backdrop and stuff aside, and like honestly, those conversations are probably very valid and conversations that are way above my pay grade, right? About the morality of it all, and of course you could look in the mirror and probably find plenty of, if you're on the outside looking in at America, you probably have a lot of other morality issues, right? So I 100% understand, stand by, and I just think I will still stand by the fact that on the list of like historically bad looks, it was a historically bad look for the PGA. But now when some of the details come to light, it does start to at least make sense as to like this had to happen, or the PGA Tour wasn't going to survive. I mean, they're going to run out of money. And people are already talking about how they don't make enough money. Well, guess what? When they're digging into their coffer to help fight this, they said they had already paid $50 million in legal fees to fight this thing off, and they'd already dipped into their reserves, which were only $100 million. These are big numbers to people like me, right? But I mean, when you're talking about like big corporate entities, yeah, that's not a lot of money and not a lot of runway to fight somebody with essentially a limitless bankroll. So it's fascinating. It'll be really interesting now to see kind of the sport evolve. People make more money. Will they do things differently? Like I think the thing about golf, and we talked about it with the Masters. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago, just how boring it can be, right? Especially if you don't have a big draw like Tiger Woods or so. So will the sport evolve? Maybe everybody sort of, the purist is like, oh, well, they're only playing 54 holes and they're doing this and everybody makes the cut or whatever. It's like, dude, if Tiger doesn't make the cut, I ain't watching anymore. Mm-hmm. So like you just have to look at it from a business perspective. And I mean, everybody's going to resist change. But you look at what baseball did with the pitch clock, right? It's like everybody's bitching about it. People are still bitching about it. The product is better. Like they've improved the game, and guess what? In 2 years, everybody's gonna be used to it. When they back the 3-point line up, or changed implemented the shot clock, or let people start slam dunking in basketball. Like these are things that people initially get pushed back on, and it makes the game better. And if it doesn't, guess what? You just fucking go back to the way you did it before. Like, it's fine. You got to try shit to figure out what works and what doesn't. And so, I mean, who knows, man? Maybe this is all water under the bridge in 5 years, and golf is a more fun sport to watch.
Yeah, and like we said when we initially started talking about this merger, and also when LIV started becoming relevant, we thought this was going to better the game because it's going to make the PGA Tour find ways to pay the players more and give them more opportunities. So I'm actually excited to see what this does for golf. But also, I think what this does is, you got to keep in mind that some of these big name players, Brooks Koepka and all these other guys who went over to LIV, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of motivation to really keep LIV relevant now that they're merging with the PGA Tour. So it's going to be interesting to see how they bring those guys back to the tour. I'm going to be really interested in see that and try to follow that. But that is something to keep on the radar and actually watch as this merger happens. Yeah,
how the money shakes out for the guys that took the leap and got paid, and how they'll live up to those agreements is really fascinating, and will surely be something to follow.
But also, do you think that those guys can just come back over to the PGA? Because it sounds like when they left for the LIV, they said, no, you guys will never play in another PGA Tour event.
Yeah, those rules have got to be gone. I mean, as part of this deal, they got to go back on that.
Well, I don't know about that, Sleep. That's something that I'm going to be interested to see.
Well, as an entity, as a for-profit entity, you want Brooks Koepka on your tour.
Absolutely.
Right? You want DeChambeau and all these guys that left. So like, look, you already backtracked on you got the fucking dinosaur egg on your face already, right? Like, just let these guys come back. Like, that's what it tells me as the average fan is like, yes, okay, all bets are off. Everything you said before amounts to nothing. And again, in a weird way, like, Like whatever the dude's name is that runs the PGA Tour, Manahan or something like that. Like, dude, I get it. I completely understand.
But
dude, I was gonna ask if that shirt. I've been waiting for you to adjust. I was gonna ask if that shirt said the Big Boys
of Pickleball. This is from my guy Willie in Louisville. Man, this guy is actually motivation, man. He's been playing pickleball for years, but man, it kind of changed his life. I met him on the pickleball courts playing in a tournament in Illinois. And he's a hell of a pickleball player, but man, this dude's lost like 100-something pounds playing pickleball, and he has hands. He can move. Pickleball, so I come across him in the tournaments. Great dude. I always dap him up and talk to him. He's a big basketball fan too. So he does the Big Boys of Pickleball. So he gave me one of these shirts last tournament, and so I actually like it. I like to rock it a lot too.
God, I'm sad that I knew that shit said pickleball. So as you're listening and not watching, like all I can see is Tyler's got this shirt on the screen. It says Big Boys, and then later I see it's got a Z on it. And then later I see Big Boys of, and I'm like, okay. This dude's gone full fucking pickleball on me. So, yep, that's what it is. Anyway, yeah, shout out, man. Pickleball coming on. Maybe I'll get in on it.
But hey, Sleep, I had one last point on the whole PGA. How would you feel? Would you be mad at the director of the PGA or the commissioner, whoever runs it, the Mohan guy? Would you be mad if you're one of the tour players who turned down an enormous contract from Liv because you wanted to stay loyal and you also wanted to show like, hey, what they've done, I don't stand for that. It's a lot of money, but some things are worth more than money. And you turned down life-altering money to stay in the PGA Tour. Now there's a merger. How would you feel about that if you're one of those PGA Tour players? Because I would be pretty pissed off.
I'd be pissed, but then if you look at the facts, you'd have to realize, like, you know what? Other people took this bet. I didn't take it. I could have taken it. I didn't. I still stand by what I did, what I didn't do, right? But if you look at the material facts and if they're true that the PGA could not spend any more to keep up, then you realize that like they made a decision that was in your best interest, because if they go away, what money you have left goes away. Do you really want to sink with this ship? I guarantee you those guys made that decision not because I guarantee you that if some of those people thought or knew that the PGA Tour couldn't keep up with it anyway, I promise, you start asking some of these guys, maybe not Rory McIlroy and the top earners, but a lot of these guys that didn't go, if they had any inclination that this might happen. So what I'd be pissed about is, did the PGA disclose enough early on enough so that I can make an informed decision about what I wanted to do? Or did they sell me this swan song about how I should stay loyal to the PGA when certain people knew all along that they couldn't keep up with this? And so that's the part that I would be pissed about. But I think if all the facts were known, I think you'd have a lot fewer hardliners about going to Live, because they'd be like, well, hell, man, golf might not exist. These guys are going to take us over. That's where I'd come in.
That's my whole point, Sleep, is the PGA sent down and also pushed these players. You guys are actually going to go play golf for the Saudis. Look at what they do. Look what they stand for. They push that rhetoric on the players.
Yep.
Okay, they strong armed them too into not going and making more money and having a better opportunity. But at the end of the day, they were the sellout. They went to the Live Tour. But you don't see the PGA Tour. You don't see people talking about that or holding them to the same level of integrity that these players were shamed when they left to go to the Live.
Yep.
Where's all the backlash at the PGA Tour? That's what I want to know, is why all of a sudden this whole crowd that went after these PGA Tour players that left to go to Live, why don't we see people coming after the PGA Tour like this? It just seems like everybody's like, oh, hey, I'm just stunned and I can't believe they merged. Well, and the reality of it was they were always going to have to merge because it's a business decision. They couldn't keep up with them. But why is now the backlash not happening? I just don't see that in the media, and I don't feel that vibe coming from all these, traditionalist golf guys.
I agree completely, and I do think some heads should roll in the executive level of the PGA. Like the director, whoever this guy is, like I understand that, like, look, you make choices with the decision, and revisionist history, hindsight 2020. It's easy to say now that you should have seen it. Look, I'm not saying right or wrong, but there's consequences for outcomes and actions, right? And so somebody has to take responsibility. And if, you know, there's a lot of people that have had to step down from positions, and like, you know, it's like they had to make a decision between the lesser of two evils, right? And there was never going to be a good outcome, and there was really probably never anything that was going to save their job. So I am surprised that we haven't heard of any like high profile, you know, changes into the personnel, given how hard line they were. Because it sure seems like now, you make a great point. It sure seems like now they sat down and realized that the only way they were going to prevail is to win over like the sentiment of golf fans, because it really looks like a really shaky argument now to just say, hey, they're bad people. It's blood money. Okay. Like, I mean, I don't say it's a bad, I don't mean it's a bad argument, right? Because a lot of people were behind that argument. I agree with that argument. Okay. But it's very easy for people to be like, all right, well, what about, you know, kids making soccer balls in factories for, you know, 10 cents an hour, and they sell them here in America, and everybody kind of turns their head. Like, yeah, it's no secret that, like, I'm not saying that we're complicit to genocide and things like that, but there's plenty of shit that we don't do on the up and up. And that can be said probably for everyone across the world. It's never a perfect picture, but, yeah, I mean, in hindsight, it's a pretty shaky argument, and I think that was very strategic. That they probably knew a lot earlier on that they were in jeopardy of that. The only way they'd win is if they could convince players not to go, because once the players started to go, it was over. Oh yeah, 100%. That's what's kind of laid bare now.
I agree with you, Sleep, and also you got to look at where the Saudis' money, where their money is invested. And people don't realize they invest money in AT&T, all these other companies. They're invested, and they have more of an influence than what people think. So all these people out here that have been against this and all this and talking all that, really look into the details and see, you know, how big of an influence the Saudis have with their money and what all they're invested in. And then it'll really make you open your eyes.
We're going to make the Hard Knocks thing short. Who do you want to see on Hard Knocks?
Absolutely nobody. I'm not going to watch an episode of Hard Knocks. I mean, the only thing I'm watching on TV is pickleball nowadays. Wow. And the NBA Finals. I will watch Get Up in the morning. But Hard Knocks, I mean, I don't know, Sleep.
Big Hawk gave up on freaking Ted Lasso after one episode. After one season. God, I would love to see the Jets or the Commanders. Those are the two of the 14. I think I mentioned this last week. Jets, Bears, Saints, Commanders. Commanders would be a great story. Okay, Sleep Dog, Commanders fan, probably part of the problem. Dude, you know I'm a real fan if I'm still a fan, because it's been a tough life. But we got Sam Howell in there, QB1 right now. So the Jets would be super interesting with Aaron Rodgers coming in. The other two I could care less about, but I would watch if either of those two teams were on there. Only because I looked at it and I wanted to share it. There are 5 teams in the history of Hard Knocks that made the playoffs, one of which was last year's Dallas Cowboys, and even though they made the playoffs, they were certainly a disappointment. Speaking of American things, there is nothing as American as chocolate chip cookie. Is cookie review time. Sleep Dog from the bakery at the neighborhood food line, $1.59 for a 2-count gourmet 2-count chocolate chip cookie.
Double stuffed golden Oreo, classic. Sleep Dog.
Is that classic?
No, it's not. It's kind of newer.
You know, so what we started this thing as is saying, hey, you had to. We're going to review chocolate chip cookies because it's a level playing field. And Big Hawk just goes all live tour on us and just starts reviewing all these other cookies.
Hey guys, also when you eat an Oreo, don't ever eat anything else besides a double stuffed. And the mega stuff sucks. Just go buy a cake and eat a cake if you just want all that icing. The double is a good mixture. I do think that the single stuffed, there's not a lot of that. I don't know. What is it in the middle? Is it, I don't know what it is, but the middle stuff, the cream, whatever.
Sugar.
Yeah. No. This is cane sugar. It's very healthy for you, natural. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and take a bite. You talk about your sleep.
See, made a conscious decision here. They had like a big rack of them. And then they had a little baggie with 2 in there. I was like, 2's probably a wise move because I still got them dusty ass Chips Ahoy from last week in the cabinet in there. And man, I'm not saying I haven't eaten any of them, even though I gave them a really bad review. So, $1.59. I mean, literally the tag says fresh and affordable, and it is both of those things. So this advertising spot on. This is a 6.8. I mean, just primo. The only thing that keeps it out of a 7s, as you know, I need a size and recipe where I can eat as many of these things until I feel sick. You start creeping up on 3 or 4 of these bad boys, and I mean, you're gonna enjoy it at the time. You're gonna regret it a little later.
Oh yeah,
and then you're gonna wake up with a tummy ache about 2 a.m.
I know what that feels like. I've done that so many times. God, I don't know if anybody else does this. It's impossible to open up a bag of popcorn and not eat the whole bag.
No.
And then my stomach gets sick every single time, but I still do it. I got and it hits me about 2 a.m. when I'm like just in bed. I'm like curled up. But listen, the double stuffed golden Oreo is an absolutely phenomenal cookie. You can absolutely get it at any gas station, any grocery store you walk into in the United States.
Shout out.
Do what?
Hermie, the slip in.
Yeah, you can slip on into slip in at Hermes. Right. And you can get you some double stuffed golden Oreos.
You're gonna be the governor of Virginia one day, guys.
I would love to be
president.
Wouldn't mind seeing that either. But listen, the golden stuffed Oreo, phenomenal cookie, 7.4. The only reason I didn't go higher is because you can just find it anywhere. And also, Sleep Dog, these are right up your alley. You can eat 45 of these. And,
damn right you can.
And the other thing is, I don't know if do you drink milk when you have cookies?
You know, I'm not a milk guy, man. I'm a connoisseur of cookies. I love milk. I don't do the milk and the cookies.
Okay,
screw out of that.
You don't drink like almond milk or goat milk. You just drink
2%.
Okay, great. All right, great. Whatever. Every once in a while, I'll go into the whole. I don't do hey, I want the almond milk, the
white water.
Yeah, the cashew milk. No, I want milk. I want the real thing, straight from the cow,
baby. I want the real thing, baby.
And so, this is just a little idea, guys. Go get you a big glass of milk. All right. You sit down, you grab your double stuffed golden Oreos. You take 2 of them, you just drop them on in there. They'll sink down to the bottom. Make sure you have a spoon.
I really don't like this. Give me anxiety.
All right. And then you start eating the cookies. And then, I put one of these whole things in my mouth, and then I just go take a big old squish of the milk, and then it just softens up that cookie, and I just eat it. And eventually you just get to the bottom of the glass, and those soggy cookies are at the bottom. You just take that spoon and you start eating those things.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's like cereal. Unbelievable.
Oh God. How do you do that? I just mowed down these 2 cookies. Tell me, I'm supposed to eat Chipotle right after this.
Oh my God.
I got a ham bone last night too by accident on some frozen margaritas. So I'm going to be on my A game tomorrow at work. I can tell you that much.
Guys, there's no worse place to eat right before, let's just say 40 minutes before they're closing than Chipotle.
They're just in there mailing them in.
Oh, dude, the cookies, the chicken's been out for about 4 hours. The rice is about as hard as a missile. And they're already Cloroxing the counters. And then they look at you like...
They're spraying Clorox in the barbacoa.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then...
Spray back.
This is why I'm so upset, because I went into Chipotle about 30 minutes before they're about to close. And everything was almost like 1/4 left, and I could just tell it was a bad decision. I was the only guy, and then they just all looked at me like, "Really, dude?" When I walked in, and they had Clorox cleaning solution all on the counters. The guy goes, "You want anything to eat?" I said, "You know what?
I was looking for an application.
I thought about it. I think I'm done here, guys. Think so." And I walked out, and I was just like, unbelievable. 30 minutes before they closed.
Oh man,
I can understand 5 minutes. But
Bro, you ever work in the food industry, man? You don't ever go anywhere 30 minutes before they close because everybody in there is like, man, this guy. That closing hour is like, that's what time I'm trying to be shutting the lights off and going home. Not if I own the place, right? You own the place, like, hey, man, 9:05, come on in.
Yeah.
Well, you work there, you're like, bro, don't you dare tug on this door handle. And look at me like, and then they want to eat in. That's the next piece, too.
Kitchen open?
Yeah. You guys still serving? Nope. Anyway, guys, there you have it. Cookie review. Yeah, we covered a lot. We made something out of nothing today. Mm-hmm. This is a good pod. Mm-hmm. Sleep Dog headed overseas, going to Italy. Mamma mia! I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. You got anything else, Big Hawk?
Stay safe.
Stay safe.